Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for this special webinar in which we talk about how mental health impacts victims of gender-based violence. And even before that, we explore the nexus between mental health and gender-based violence. Speaking on this very, very critical issue today, we have Ms. Afra Arshad, who is a clinical psychologist having years of experience in this field, interacting with victims of gender-based violence who are suffering from mental health issues, and she also runs her own initiative by the name Teen Wellness. Thank you very much, Ms. Afra, for being here today and giving us your time. I would like to start this session by asking the first question. I think that goes really at the heart of the topic, and that is, how do mental health and gender-based violence interact? So how they two interconnected?
Hello, thank you so much for the session, and thank you so much for highlighting such important topic. I'm honored to be here, and I'm glad that I got the opportunity to talk about this. I would also like to start by sharing that I have recently just took the training regarding gender-based violence, which was organized by Mental Health and Human Foundation. So I'm really happy to, share more, highlight and share my insight regarding. So you asked me what's the connection between gender-based violence and mental health. So as you all know that gender-based violence, it basically encompasses of physical harm, emotional harm, there's psychological harm, and there's sexual harm that is linked with individuals regarding their gender. The main agenda over here is it's all happening due to their gender. So definitely they are interlinked, because once the trauma survivors, they experience such intense psychological consequences which can lead to the long term as well. All the survivors, they often face mental health challenges. क्यों चली गई हो?
Yes, Ms. Afra,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I'm really sorry for the poor internet. I was saying that gender-based violence and mental health, they are definitely interlinked, because the trauma survivors, they are experiencing long-term psychological consequences. They are facing such challenges that comes from the imbalance of power. There's a fear attached to it. There's a societal stigma that is attached with the gender-based violence, which can increase their harm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in mentioning that when a person is subject to gender-based violence for a prolonged period of time, then there's definitely some trauma that is going to manifest in terms of various mental health issues. Coming to the next question, what are the common sort of mental health issues that you see victims face when they suffer from GBV, or when they are victims of GBV for a prolonged period of time?
Definitely, there are numerous mental health influences that can impact their well-being, and I would like to share that the most common mental health issue that is linked with the survivors of gender-based violence is post-trauma stress disorder. There is nightmares, there's intrusive memories, there's flashbacks that disrupts their lifestyle. Then depression is also one of the most common mental health issue that is linked with gender-based violence. They start feeling hopelessness, there's a chronic sadness, there's a persistent fear, and they also face panic attacks as well. Now, in order to cope up with all the mental health illness, they have to cope up with something. They need something. So they start intervening into the substance abuse. They start using drugs that could also lead to another mental health illness. They start having insomnia. They start having nightmares due to extreme fear. So all of this is interlinked with each other. I would not say that there's only single mental health issue that is experienced by these survivors. There's numerous mental health issues which are interlinked with each other. So we have to shed light on this thing as well.
Absolutely, you rightly mentioned that a variety of mental health issues that victims suffer as a consequence of gender-based violence. And when a person is going through these sort of struggles with their mental health, then it becomes really crucial to explore the sort of support systems and the role of that support systems can play. So, how do you think family and communities around these victims of mental health, victims of gender-based violence who are suffering from mental health, how can the families and the community act as support systems and help these victims?
Definitely, the family, the friends, the community, they do play a very crucial role. Each and every individual needs the support system, whether it's the trauma survivor or it's someone that is going through any sort of mental issue. They need emotional support, someone who can acknowledge their experience, someone who can validate their experience, can help them to feel better about themselves. They help in creating environments that is free of violence, that is free of judgment. There's no one around you who wants to know more about the experience, what happened, how happened, where it happened. Rather than they ask the survivor that if they how are they feeling right now. Just one question like how are they feeling right now could help them feel that there's someone who can listen to them, someone they can help them to open up about their experience. Then the survivors of the family members also encourage them to help take therapy. They provide support, they encourage professional help, and that reduces the stigma. The main issue with gender based violence is the stigma that is attached to it. So when there's acceptance, it helps to break the silence surrounding a gender-based violence. It advocate for accepting the experience and taking professional help. So definitely, there's a very the family system, the environment, the support system. It plays a very crucial role in survivors.
Ms. Afra, you correctly mentioned that there is some sort of, you slightly mentioned that there is a stigma. And when that
Yeah.
stigma surrounds mental health, when that stigma surrounds gender-based violence, a lot of victims, I would say, a lot of people who've gone through gender-based violence or mental health challenges, they shy away from seeking help. So, how do you think in our society, especially if you could elaborate on this a bit more, how do you think stigma associated with seeking mental health assistance, how does it impact your work? How does it come into play when victims come out and seek help? So if you could elaborate a bit on that.
Definitely. It's really important to first understand that the stigma that is attached to the gender-based violence, what, where is it coming from and what is it? We start labeling those survivors as weak individual. They are damaged individual. So once we label them with such names, it discourages them from seeking help. It basically increases the impact of that trauma. The trauma itself has its consequences, but when the stigma is attached to it, it makes it very difficult due to the fear of judgment. There's a disbelief that is going on around them, that even if they report the trauma, there's a possibility that they could be labeled as attention seeker, right? There could be a possibility that people around them might say that she asked for it, right? Because she was dressed like that, because she was out alone at night, whatsoever. It could be the domestic violence, it could be the violence that happened at the workplace. So these labels and that these fears of judgment, it discourages them to report abuse. The number of survivors, the number of trauma that is occurring around us. There was a research that was conducted by Aurat Foundation, and it was stated that within 6 months there was 20,000 reports that was linked with the gender-based violence, and none of those report was uh, pushed forward. It the court had the individual had reported to the court, so but none of those cases were dealt with. They were ignored, they were not put attention to it. So when individuals suffers like that, they start thinking that do I have to report about it? So there's a stigma that is fostering around the silence, fostering around delays healing, and it definitely perpetuate the cycle of violence as well. The perpetrator knows that nobody's going to believe this girl because there's stigma going on around the society. So even if I do anything like that, I would easily be able to cope up with it. I would be easily be able to make my own way out of it. So the role of the stigma that is attached to gender-based violence, I believe that's more important to, remove, to destigmatize. It's really important to talk about it. It's important that we also, I would personally, as you shared, that I have my own private I do private practice of teen therapy wellness. So I do hope and wish that I make a community of those survivors where they can talk about their experiences, where even if they don't have anyone from their family or from their support, they don't have any support system, the community that I wish to create is to bring the safe space. We need to have a safe space for these survivors as well, where they could talk about this thing. I hope I have answered what you were asking.
Yeah, most definitely you have. And you very correctly mentioned, and I really love the term you used, destigmatize. So it's really time, and as a message of this webinar, we also encourage all victims, all survivors, I would say, of gender-based violence or going through mental health issues to come forward and speak about their problems, especially in safe communities, just like the one you're trying to foster and create in your private practice. And that brings me to my next question. You rightly mentioned that there's a lot of stigma in our society, but at the same time, we're living in a sort of age where we have a digital transformation going on with the advent of technology like artificial intelligence. There's a lot of change going on in the world. I just want to know, how do you think, as a psychologist, that we can leverage artificial intelligence in support of, mental health interventions for survivors of gender-based violence? So how can, technology be incorporated to better assist the GBV victims?
All right, perfect. Excellent question. I'm really grateful that now we are moving with the technology. We are talking about the advancement, because sooner or later there's a possibility that it's everything is being done under AI, everything is being controlled by AI. So we need to, definitely there are numerous challenges that we experience as a psychologist. But I last year I was called upon PTV News, where I had the opportunity to discuss the role of technology on mental health. That was a new thing for me, because I was not yet aware about how AI is working and how AI can contribute to the mental health challenges. So my entire session was focusing on the cons of AI in the mental health, because we were still not aware about it, we were still not guided about it. But now, since I'm seeing that how technology is basically providing the innovative solutions for our survivors. We have AI chatbots, and we have lots of apps of mental health that is talking about, they are trying to provide immediate confidential support. Maybe the chatbots are there and they need someone to listen, so they use the chatbots and they express themselves, and it actually helps them, even if the person or the bot behind the screen has no emotions, but still they are being listened. Even now, virtual counseling has increased a lot, especially in remote areas. Now we do provide online services as well, and that also helped. When I was doing my bachelor's, and when I was being taught how to do counseling, so in that time, my teachers, we were being guided like that. She told me that online counseling has no impact. So don't ever go for that. Try to have in-person sessions, because we see the body language, we see their eye contact, we have to, and we use these things to analyze as well. But now in recent era, we are using online counseling, which is helping a lot. And now we do have a lot of online support groups as well, that is also fostering the sense of community. Individuals are expressing themselves anonymously. No one knows who's behind the screen, who has made the idea, and they are basically talking about it. And especially on Instagram and on Facebook, a lot of people are sharing, they are psychoeducating us. So that can also helps. They are, especially the AI driven content that is educating the survivors and the communities about how to cope up with it. You just have to search how to share some 5 quick tips for anxiety. So the information that they are getting, that is actually useful for that. They're not sharing any false information. And sometimes they cannot reach out to a therapist. They cannot afford the therapist. So if someone needs a quick coping strategy, so they can use these AI. Definitely there are cons emotions attached to it as well. That, like I said, there are no emotions. The other person, it's not a human. They cannot relate to your experience. They cannot understand your experience. They are just doing what they are told. They are monitoring how they are being trained. So we cannot completely rely on AI technology. We can just use that as a guide. We can just use that if, it's 3 a.m. and there's no one around us and we are having suicidal thoughts and we don't know how to reach to a therapist. If you can just, search on the chat box, like, I'm having suicidal thoughts, what should I do? So maybe any one of that reply, any one statement could hit you and make you feel good about yourself. So that's how AI technology is helping the survivors, and be it is being introduced now. As a psychologist, I want to train myself how to use the AI in our benefit to help the survivors, and that could be, it could help to enhance or maybe destigmatize, that you can reach out to a psychologist, you can talk to someone professional, you can seek professional help without being labeled or without being judged. So yeah, I think we are on the right track, and hopefully the AI technology is going to make a huge impact, huge change, or maybe introduce mental health to, even to those areas where the individuals are not psycho educated, or they do not have as much awareness about it. So, we can always hope for the best.
Of course, there's hope, and there is a lot of potential that artificial intelligence and technology, the advent of artificial intelligence and technology, has brought. At this point, I also feel very important to introduce our audience to the sort of work Mehfooz has been doing. We have been leveraging technology to enhance awareness about domestic violence, the various facets of gender-based violence, domestic violence. And we also believe that digital interventions, digital policy initiatives can go a long way in alleviating the sort of problems that come with domestic violence and in general violence against women. So please visit our social media pages to get an idea about the sort of work we're doing. We have a lot of important information on how to seek help when you're going through domestic violence, what are the legal regimes that are going to protect you, irrespective of where you are in Pakistan, how to seek help, the different facets we've discussed there. So please visit our social media pages. Mehfooz is doing some great work there. Miss Afra, you really elaborately mentioned how artificial intelligence is going to address some of the challenges that mental health professionals like you face when you're working with GBV victims. And I was really fascinated by this point that you raised. And I would want you to please delve a bit more on the issue of the challenges that you're facing, being a professional working in the field of gender-based violence survivors, assisting them by, helping them out, resolve their mental issues. So if you could just please delve a bit on that.
Definitely. I would like to share more knowledge regarding when I said there's a victim blaming that's going on, there's a stigmatizing going on, that the victim blaming internalizes the guilt in them. One guilt is that why I went to that place, right? The second guilt is that why did not I share with someone regarding it? Then the third guilt comes that why could I not seek therapy? So it keeps on internalizing their guilt, which complicates therapy. When a survivor comes to us for a therapy, we are not going to just talk about the traumatic experience they have. We are also going to shed light on the other factors that have made them feel like this. Definitely, as a professional, I do encounter systematic biasness as well. The culture that we comes in, if I, try to educate them, they might feel, they resist. That I can never do that. How could you say that I talked to my father about it, or I talked to my brother about it? That where were you when I was going through that, when I needed you the most? They feel like there's a lot of imbalance of power. As a woman, they feel that we can never raise our voice in front of men because we are not being educated about it. So that's one of the challenge that I experience when I have to educate about it. Definitely, there's burnout as well, because dealing with survivors and dealing with such traumatic experiences, it definitely drain me emotionally as well. And there's no there's no training, or there's no way for me to cope up with it other than using my own personal coping strategies. There's no community that is arranged just for the psychologists where they can release out their burnout, which I feel that we do lack a lot of resources. There's limited resources over here. There's financial barriers. There's systematic barriers that hinders the comprehensive care that a psychologist deserve. And if a psychologist or a professional is mentally stable and mentally fit, only then he or she can provide therapy. If you are emotionally drained and if you are suffering on your own, then provide how can you provide therapy to other individuals? It gets very difficult. And I do want to talk about this thing as well, that on a government level, we need to start implementing some techniques for therapists as well to train our therapists. There's a lot of bachelor psychologists who are providing therapies to survivors. Now, imagine as a bachelor who is still learning, who is still in a learning phase, who is still learning how to provide counseling. How can he or she cope up with the guilt that is associated with it? So I really wish to make a positive impact on mental health, the system of mental health. We are still lacking behind as compared to Europe areas. They are providing a lot of services, not just to the survivors, but to the psychologists or professionals as well. But in Pakistan, we lack this thing a lot, and I still feel that because of this limitation, we are far behind where it comes to working with these survivors. When I was doing my training, we had the professionals with us who were from different universities based in Canada or based in UK, and they shared list of certifications or training before they actually start giving counseling. And if you ask us, we have just done a bachelor's or a master's, and we have started providing counseling. We are not, nobody is supervising us. Where is our supervisors? We need to have like 4 to 5 psychologists under one supervisor. If you are practicing, you need a supervisor as well. But we don't have that, and nobody is doing anything about it. Nobody is keeping a check on that thing, which I believe it's not being fair to the survivors, because they deserve professional help, because they're already suffering from a lot of dilemma. There's a lot of there's a lot of insecurity that is built in. There's a lot of trust issues. So if he or she comes to a therapist like that who is not even trained enough, so that's basically adding more stress into their life.
Absolutely. You've correctly mentioned that lack of regulation is also a significant problem that psychologists, young psychologists especially, and experienced psychologists even, they're not subject to any sort of regulation. So we need a regulatory body, but above and beyond the challenges you've mentioned in terms of burnout, in terms of not having a place to release your own stresses, your own absorption of trauma, that are significant challenges. And kudos to women like you who are working in this area, navigating this space and making it safer for women and other vulnerable segments of population to come out and speak about their problems, and you're assisting them in ways more than one. Thank you so much, Ms. Afra, for joining. Today's session has been really insightful, as I'm sure that there will be a lot for the audience to learn and to actually incorporate in their practical lives if they really tune into this session. Thank you so much, Ms. Afra, for joining, and that will be the end of our session.
Thank you so much. Take care.